Well, hey there, listeners. Welcome back to Second Cup. I'm your host, Tim Heller. Why in the heck am I talking like this? Well, it's because my guest for today is a fellow Scotty/Wisconsinite, Kat Karmalover Culbertson. Kat is a lifelong interdisciplinary artist from Beloit, Wisconsin, currently living in Monona, Wisconsin, aiming to document life as beautifully as possible and fascinated with the process. Now, top off your beverage, get comfy, and enjoy this episode of Second Cup with my friend, Kat Culbertson.
How has your morning been on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm gonna go with like a 9.5, and this is also my evening.
Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. Where are you joining from?
So right now I'm doing 2 different mural projects, and I go to one and then I go right into the other one, and I work until usually like 9 in the morning. And it's the first snow here, and it's really pretty, and I'm really close to finishing this project, and I'm so excited to finish this project. So that's why I'm like on a high. It might be manic, but we're just gonna go with like really positive.
Hey, I will take a 9.5. 9.5 is fucking sweet. And so, okay, so you're not joining from a different time zone or
No.
country. You're still are you in the Midwest
Yes.
then still
Yeah,
right
I'm
now?
actually in Monona, which is practically Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yep. I've got my parents lived in Madison for a little while. My sister went to UW, and that's great. Yeah, so you guys got snow as well. I got pictures from my parents just outside of Chicago, and they have a beautiful blanket
Oh
over
yeah.
everything right now.
Yep. I had my little boots on. I was ready for it.
That's great. Yeah, here in Texas, I think we've had one night where it's gotten below freezing so far, and it's like, I mean, it's prime Texas weather right now with how like we've been able to be outside with a fire.
That's perfect.
It's been great. So no complaints
I miss
here.
Texas. I lived in Texas for 6 years.
Oh no way!
In
Where at?
Houston.
That's amazing. Yeah, my wife was born in Houston, and her whole family is in College Station now.
Nice.
So they're back and forth. We're in Houston fairly regularly.
That's awesome.
So that's sweet. Amazing. We have so many different connections. It's kind of crazy that we haven't crossed paths in the real world
right?
yet. Yeah. So, Kat, thank you so much for making time to do this and for joining in the middle of your crazy work schedule with everything you have going on.
Thank you.
For those who don't know, we got connected through Tanja, and would you mind just telling us a little bit about like who you are, what you do, and how you know Tanja, and just kind of how you got to where you're at now?
Yes, so I'll start with how I know Tanja. So I went to Illinois State University as well, and she and I are in the same sorority, and she is my pro-fight. So she kind of brought me into the organization, and that's how I know her, and I looked up to her throughout my college career and still do. Now I am doing art full-time. I've been doing art full-time since February. I did graduate, and then I did a master's program for a little bit. I did not study art at all. I studied political science, and it kind of broke my heart. I mean, I did 3 different campaigns. I was a TA for 3 years. I studied abroad. I had an internship in DC, and I really enjoy working ground level with people, and that was just not the way for me. I've been an artist my whole life. My first grade career day photo is like me as a little artist with a little thing. So it just had to come full circle, you know? So here we are.
That's amazing. And so what was that? So what about the political science world kind of broke your heart? And what was that experience like of going through undergrad and a graduate program and then having to pivot?
I didn't complete my graduate program. I ended up walking out in the middle of a semester.
Good
yeah. I went into college very naive on pretty much every level. I also had a full ride for volleyball, so that I learned a lot from all these different angles. And I really was just shown that it's a really ugly game, right? It's an inherently ugly, corrupt game, and there's no way around that. And no matter how driven you are and how passionate and how sweet you want to be, like you have to play if you want to play that game, right? And it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I got pretty burnt out. Between that and volleyball, I was really burnt out by the time I was done with school. I just saw a lot of ugliness that I wasn't prepared for, and I also had a lot of bad personal habits that I didn't want to face. And it's like I kept getting in these shitty situations until it's like, oh, now I'm the only common denominator left. So it was just a lot,
Yeah.
you know. And yeah,
I can
it
relate
was a
to that.
valuable experience. I'm glad that it's behind me. So yeah.
Yep. It's those you move on, you learn, and you hope that and you do your best to never repeat it.
Yes. Definitely. Yeah.
So when you walked out of school, what was next? Where did you go? What was the game plan, if there was one? And if there wasn't, how did you scrap together what you wanted to
There
do?
was no game plan. That was actually my first year in Houston, and I was just kind of, day by day working. At one point, I was working 3 jobs. I was doing a lot of service industry. I was in the service industry for like 15 years. If you have social skills and you
Yeah.
can work, you can make really good money relatively easily. Um,
Yep.
it kind of, in a lot of ways, continued on that path of like me teaching myself life lessons in extremely uncomfortable, traumatic ways, right? But like, it's kind of like the expedited summer course. Like, here, just shit on yourself continuously until you figure it out. Like, it was.
Yeah.
It was a wild ride, I don't regret it, and I did have fun. Like, it wasn't just completely horrible. I'm just a very
Yeah.
stubborn, like really intense person sometimes, and that kind of was the
Yeah.
perfect storm.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm similar in ways of like I will know that I need to do something, or I know through experience like once or twice that it's like, okay, I need to do this or not do that, but it really has to be like I have to want to.
Yeah,
Like, that's how it was for me with drinking. Like I knew I wanted to not be drinking anymore, or be drinking less, and so I started with that, and I would drink less until I didn't, and then it was over and over until I just like got to this point where I was like, oh, I really actually genuinely like deeply do not want to be drinking at all anymore. And I was, when I told my wife, I was like, I know you've got to feel frustrated, or like I assumed that you feel frustrated that I didn't stop sooner. And she was like, yeah, I mean, of course there's a little bit of that, but I also know you better than you know yourself. So like, I knew that you have to do this because you
Right.
need it, you can't stop something for anybody
Part
else.
of your process. That was definitely a similar. I feel like I had a bit of a similar struggle with that working in industry. I'm not naturally inclined to drink, and in industry, I realized this actually recently, like right before I left and did art full time. I had this realization of like, okay, I'm at work. I start drinking at the end of the shift, and this is me coping, right? This isn't me going out and having fun with my friends. This is why I feel like shit
Yeah.
the next day, like this. It's a different experience, and I had to be really mindful and realistic with myself about that. Like, this is not something that I would go out of my way to do. This is something that I'm in this environment, in this situation, and now I'm at the end of the night and I'm like burnt out and I'm sick of people talking to me this type of way, or like, having empty conversations. So yeah, I'm glad I'm not in that environment.
Yeah, I'm glad for you. And do you feel like the coping was more of, I know you mentioned it like it was the end of the day, didn't want people talking to you that way. Do you feel like it was quieting voices, or how did you feel like you were using, or what did you feel like alcohol was a tool for? Did it feel like it was confidence to have different types of conversations with people, or what was that mission of drinking?
It was maybe a bit of numbing. I felt really jaded towards people working in industry. I've realized I've been a very naive person for most of my life, and I just really wanted to see the good in everyone, like desperately almost, right? Like I just was striving for that, like almost like Disney level, like goodness, right?
Oh yeah, it's that painfully Midwestern part of us that's just like, oh no, I bet they're just hurting, and if I can take on their pain, it'll be fine.
Exactly. It's like the cheese curd part of your brain, right? It's like, really
Uh-huh.
bad. So I want to love people like wholly as they are and where they are. And for me now, stepping away from that, I realize that's from a distance, but I couldn't get away from it. And when you're working in a bar, especially like a late night bar, especially a late night bar that has like party favors everywhere, you're seeing people not in their brightest light at all. You're not seeing any
Yeah.
of their like best self come out. You're not hearing their like top voices, and it gets ugly. And I don't want to think about people like that. I genuinely want to love people, and that was a huge challenge for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so how did you overcome, or not overcome, but I guess work through and navigate through all of that?
I had to be more realistic about, how those patterns exist in life. Like it is saturated, right? This is a lifestyle that a lot of people choose, and it's not my place to judge or act like I have an understanding of what is better or what is.
Yeah.
So if it's something that is so uncomfortable for me and like provides a lot of resistance immediately, then the best I can do is to create more space. Like the most loving I can be is like I need to be a little bit further back, right?
Yeah.
It's
And boundaries are a motherfucker
bro.
for
Like,
Midwesternites who are like, oh my gosh, my wife is like a champion at this. She is so emotionally literate, and I was telling my brother, and he's staying with us for a couple weeks before Thanksgiving here, and uh, I was like, I really am, and I've learned this a while ago, but without having a partner or somebody in your sphere who is like with you on a regular basis, who is emotionally literate and like a pro at setting boundaries, and just like the fact that she can feel something, name it, and name what she needs in order to process it, fucking
yeah.
wild, right?
Yeah, I'm like entry level
And
and I'm like mid 30s. I'm like
yeah.
just getting there. She sounds like graduate level, like maybe PhD.
Oh, she's a
Yeah.
savant. Like she is, yeah. Yeah, she is a pro at it.
I love that for
But
you.
and so you found that, like, thanks, I do too. It's even when it's frustrating and being like, God damn it, like I don't know how I
Right?
feel. I'm just like I'm fine. I'll figure it out,
Yeah.
right? Like that's just what I
You
do.
you just you got gifted the cheat codes right there. Like for real. That's a huge win.
Yeah. Yeah. So you found, like, through setting those boundaries for was it through like telling people, or was it by setting boundaries of kind of removing yourself from those situations?
Most of it was me being real with myself, like the internal conversations I was having with myself and being realistic about my role in all of these situations. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of had to take a step back. Like I am naturally a confrontational person, which was not really always the answer or in my favor. And a lot of these communication skills, I worked in forensic mental health for 2 years, and that was maybe I think it was 2017 and 2019 time. And yeah, so
Okay.
that was actually a huge shift in my life, because I'm working with people that did things that are like unimaginable for most and like horrendous. And I'm with them day to day, and I was seeing like, I'm really not this far off from this person, right? Like these are extreme
Mm.
emotions, these are different perceptions, these are people that didn't have nurturing homes, maybe have some chemical imbalances, like it was a really humbling experience. And then on top of that, like my dad was diagnosed bipolar. I'm pretty sure that he had a personality disorder after working here. And he was the first person that I was really effectively setting serious boundaries with. And it was me realizing like his manipulative tendencies and behaviors were not personal. This is how he's learned to move through life. So I need to just set these boundaries and not get mad about that. But when I first started doing that, it felt personal to him. So, it's just
Yeah.
that process. And like, if I could do that with my dad, I could do that wherever, right? It was just like learning how to kind of decipher what the situation was, like what you're talking about, what your wife can do, like being able to get there more quickly, right? Like that's what the game
Yeah.
is now.
Yeah.
So
And trusting yourself. I know for me, at least, it's a trust issue with my own self, and not necessarily even one that stemmed from alcohol or anything like that, or even like real trauma in childhood, but it's just kind of that I don't know. I just always wanted everybody else to be comfortable. If everybody could be comfortable,
yeah.
then oh my God, we're fine. Even if I am just like burying what I'm feeling. And my brother called me on it that while he was here, he was just like, you know, that when you do that, like everyone sees you doing that and it doesn't fix anything. And I was like, shut up, it's fine.
You're like, I'm great.
It's fine, everything's okay. I'm great. Just bleeding out of my ears.
That is a Midwestern
yeah,
thing,
no,
though.
I mean, yeah. And you know, it's been interesting. I don't know if you can speak to this with your family as well, but like with you know, I mean, we've always grown up like very open, and we talk about stuff, and have never been, it's never been frowned upon to talk about our emotions and everything. And my dad's been sober for 29 years. My brother's been sober for 3 years. I'm now over a year sober, and so we talk about this stuff, but seeing the evolution of my brother going through AA and my family going through FA and the 12 steps with him, and learning about those boundaries and seeing that evolution. Have you seen any of that in your sphere of people around you who are closest to you, that as you've started to set boundaries, you've started to see kind of the
Ripple.
domino effect of that?
I definitely have seen that. My relationship with my parents shifted a lot. I didn't necessarily have the family that like spoke openly. Like my mom's side of the family was very much the let's keep everyone comfortable vibe. And my dad's side of the
Mm-hmm.
family was confrontational, but never like in a raw, like actual sense. It's like, I'm gonna bark at you so you stop pointing out my shit, right? Like that's what it was. And I
Yeah.
did go to Emotions Anonymous with my mom. She had before done some different versions of the 12-step program. So like I am familiar with that. And my dad is also. And it was a shift with my parents of when I started talking to them on an equal level. Like, of course, I'm still your child and you're still the adult, but we're at a point in our lives where we've got to talk like at a level space. And it wasn't until that point where I actually started learning really valuable things from my parents, right? Like they were actually able to share life experiences that before they felt like, oh, this is not appropriate to share with my child, or like, and
Mm-hmm.
that did start opening up into like my aunts and uncles, right? And then with my cousins, and now
Yeah.
with my grandma, I have one grandparent left. And when I was growing up, I was always told like, oh, you can't tell her that, that's too intense. And I tell her everything. You know what I mean? Like she's 95.
Yeah.
She is three times
She's heard it
she
all.
has three times the life experience, and I feel like I've like gone fucking through it. You know what I'm saying? Like what am I gonna, she has so much more wisdom than I'm able to comprehend right now. So yeah, I have seen the domino effect. Yes.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
I didn't expect us to dive into all of this today, but I so appreciate. I'm not upset at it, and I so appreciate your vulnerability and candor with it. It's such a wonderful treat to get to connect with somebody on this level in our first conversation.
Cheers to you.
Fucking dope. Cheers, yes, to my hot water with lemon.
I'm drinking a herbal tea. So.
Oh, very nice. Yes. So, with your art and the transition into going into art full time, I'd love to dig in on. So you left your grad program, went to Houston. You and correct me on the timeline. I'm interpreting as I'm getting the information in. You Houston was service industry and then working in mental health. When did you start or continue? Were you painting all the way through this? And how did it start to slowly creep in and take over into a full-time creative position?
So I've been an artist my whole life. Like I was obsessed with art. Van Gogh and Lisa Frank were my first loves, like super deep, right? Like they were core.
What a combo.
Yeah, it says a lot.
Yes.
I definitely veered away from it. The last I'm actually taking my first art class right now since my freshman year of high school. When I was in,
That's
it's
fun.
amazing. It's a life drawing, form drawing class, incredible. When I was at Illinois State, because I had a full ride for volleyball, they did not, there were some programs that they were like, we don't really, this doesn't work with our schedule, right? And art was one of them, nursing was another one, things like that, very illegal, whatever. Um, so, so I graduated from Illinois State. I did one semester there as a master's program. I went to Houston to go to Texas Southern University. I wanted an experience at an HBCU, and I wanted to feel like a minority in my environment, even though it's a different type of minority, like I just still wanted to have a little bit more perspective and understanding with that. And when I was living in Houston is when I started being able to give myself room to paint more. I came back to Madison in 2017. That's when I worked forensic mental health. I went to New Orleans in 2019 because I just was like, I need to get away. I don't want winter. I got bit by a brown
Yeah.
recluse spider. Thought I was gonna die. Yeah, this was in like February. I left in December 2019. February 2020, I got bit by a brown recluse. I think I came back in April. I looked like a crackhead. Like I lost any muscle that I had. I could barely do anything. I couldn't work for 7 months. So I came back.
Can we take a quick sidebar on like what, just for people who aren't familiar, like we get some crazy spider, and like my brother and I just laid down all the sod in our backyard. We had a bunch of like little wolf spiders in there, and they're pretty bad and
Yeah.
gnarly, but like a brown recluse spider is like a whole nother level. Where did you get bit? What happened?
So I was,
That's
yeah,
terrifying.
I was living. So when I was living in New Orleans, my roommate and I were trying to figure out like, are we in the seventh ward? We think we're in the seventh ward. It was Rocheblave right off of Franklin, for anyone that's familiar with New Orleans. So that is a neighborhood that is one that will be one of the first to flood. And I was in a very traditional shotgun style duplex. So the whole frame of the house, the foundation is wood, and brown recluse spiders live on like moist wood. I was in bed at home when I got bit. I woke up and felt like pain that I've never felt. I felt like someone took like a pipe and like dry shoved it into my bicep. It was horrible. Yeah. So I woke up and I looked and I had a bite on my hand and it was like blossoming, kind of opening, and I had the red line, like the blood poisoning going up around my shoulder. I was uninsured at the time. I told my roommate like I have to go to the emergency room. Like I have to go. And it took us an hour. We went to Tulane. We're like, Tulane's a university. It'll be nice. It was fucking trash. It was so horrible. And I was already starting to lose a little bit of awareness. Like I remember not being able to recall words, and my roommate could tell. It took some time for me to get back there. They gave me 2 shots, I think, at least one or 2 shots. I don't know. They gave me some antibiotics. They wanted to surgically remove the bite. I said no. I was not comfortable. We left. I got mono and a staph infection from the emergency room.
Yeah.
It
What
was
the hell? Oh my
insane.
God.
It was insane. Insane. It was insane.
I'm sweating just thinking about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How did you, and so then did you end up going back to Madison, or how did
Yeah,
you
eventually.
heal and recoup from that?
Um,
Yeah. You're like, maybe in New Orleans is sending me a sign that I don't need to be
yeah, it
here.
was real ugly. I could barely, it was the first time I ever passed out. Like I was talking to my roommate and she started looking really far away and I was like, I feel weird. And then she said my head went back and I dropped and I couldn't eat. I was like losing weight. It looked like I had softballs in my neck from the mono. So like if I moved, like I'd be trying to fall asleep. Like if my head shifted, I would wake up because I'd have jolting pain. I couldn't wear my hair in a ponytail. Like if it would swing, it would be like jolting. Yeah, my fevers wouldn't come down. I kept having bouts of fevers. The longest one was 9 days, and for 3 consecutive days, it was over 103. Like my vision was affected. Like
Cat.
it was bad. Yeah. So eventually I like pack I it took me such a long time to pack because I could barely stand, right? So eventually I did
Yeah.
it and I'm just gonna be like really honest here. I had someone give me a bunch of Adderall so I could just fucking drive home. Like I just really
So you drove from New Orleans
there
to
was nothing else
Madison?
I could do. That was the only option. That was my only option
Wow.
of getting home. And I was like by myself, you know? And I was like, I just really want to be home. I felt like I was gonna die. I felt like I was
Oh
going
my
home to
God.
die. It was such a weird experience. So that's
I can't imagine. And then 10 short months later, COVID
oh my gosh,
happens.
yeah. Like in the middle of that, I coached a JV volleyball team, and I felt like I was like living a Disney movie. Like we beat this bitchy private school. I in like third game, like 2 points.
You got your Disney
Yeah, it was
fantasy.
great, and I love those girls. And you know that was like a one-time thing because high school people are weird. You know. Yeah, and then
Yep.
the cocoa came through. So you know.
Wow. Holy shit. Well, thank you for taking that sidebar. I mean, and I'm just glad that you're
Me
with
too.
us. That it sounds like
That was like a chapter
more
book
than
of a
dicey.
sidebar. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I asked for it. That's it's incredible. So then when you got back to Madison, then
Hmm.
is that when you started looking at art more full time,
Yes.
and we can get back to the original. I'm like still like brown recluse spider in the back of my mind.
Yes.
But so how did art start creeping in to take over full
It
time?
was just so much more on my mind because I was becoming aware of, being mindful of how do I want to live my life day to day? Like how do I want my experience to be and trying to take a hold of that and navigate that. And it was difficult, it was still kind of I had a lot to learn about myself, so I still do. It was just at that point, like this was me getting over that hurdle. And I was trying to find more creative friends here. And I was in like uh, a situationship with another artist. And I did learn a lot, but it was also like extremely unhealthy and a bit detrimental. Um, so that kind of pushed me. That was happening. It took me like a year of actively trying to get away from that situation for it to happen. And there was like a big climactic, like dramatic, like explosion to finally get away.
Yeah.
While that was happening, my dad was dying of pancreatic cancer. And it
Mm.
got to just a point of like, I'm either going to be completely miserable and continue to have these cyclical patterns and not learn, or I'm going to do something drastically different and find a way to fucking enjoy my life. Like there has to be something. Like I just can't do this anymore. You know, so that's me
Yeah.
being stubborn and like needing extreme extremes to shake it. So, and then I was,
Yeah, I'd say some of those extremes were pretty
yeah,
extreme.
right. Like
Oh my
I'm like
God.
really zen. Like it's fine. Everything's fine. So after my dad passed, after the cocoa, and things started opening back up, I was not planning on going back to industry. I decided to do it 2 days a week to like have something to hold me accountable to leave my house because I was like, I don't want to
Hmm.
fall into like a crazy deep depression and like not leave. I need this external whatever. And I liked working there. And this is like another really extreme thing. In February, the like dramatic end to that was that one of the owners who I had never seen drink was drinking one night. He was stressed out because this like high level band was coming in to eat and I was serving them. And he was trying to be like nice to me, which he's never really like, we're not really on that level. And he touched my ass 3 times on the floor and I was like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm done. I'm done now. And that's
Yeah.
when I was like, all right, I'm just like, I'm going to find a way. Like, I had some projects going, I had some opportunities. I was like getting momentum with it. And when that happened, I was like, this is just for whatever reason, it had to be that. But this life is clearing a path for me right now. And it's like, put everything into this. And it happened. And we're here.
Yeah, I mean, you made it happen too. It's not that I think that it's easy for people from the outside looking into creative careers and stuff like that. If you don't have somebody in your family or in your circle who is doing that and has been building something like that, it's easy to just think, "Oh yeah, look, it just
Right.
happened." It's a big break situation, and
It
it's
is.
hardly ever that. And it's
And it
yeah.
took time. Like I felt last night I was talking to my grandma and she was telling me, she's like, I'm so proud of you. She's always asking about art and like telling her friends in her little like home, like, oh yeah, my granddaughter does this. But like my grandma used to be like calling me like, oh, they have this, they're looking for this job, in the newspaper. Why don't you go apply to do this? Like it took a long time of my family really understanding and like showing that they understand that I can actually be successful as an artist. It took a very
Yeah.
long time. And but that really put a fire
Yeah.
under my ass too, because I was like, I don't ever want to hear about being a plumber again. Like yeah.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give anyone any room to even consider that ever again. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
And you're
No.
not at all. That's incredible. So what are you what is how okay, I have so many questions. Um what are the primary mediums that you work in, and how can people where can people find your work right now, and where can people get in touch with you to do your
I would
work?
say the bulk of my present work is definitely mural work. I really enjoy huge canvases. Like I'm 6'2". I want to feel tiny next to my canvases, right?
Oh.
Like the Alice in Wonderland, like eat the little thing, like, that that's the experience that I want to create for people. Like I really love the idea of being encompassed by things. So I'm doing a lot of mural work. I'm also doing a lot of digital work. My most recent digital project was with the Children's Hospital here, and I got to do 4 different designs. I'm also obsessed with hidden pictures, so everything I do is hidden pictures. I grew up on Highlights magazine. And then,
Oh my gosh. Yes, highlights.
yeah, so I did. So, okay, pre-post surgical unit, Children's Hospital. There's about 30 rooms. The front wall of the room is glass, and they had a curtain as like the discretion barrier that's no longer considered sanitary. So they wanted frosted vinyl that could be covering the glass. So they wanted to do like
Mhm.
a Great Lakes theme design. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do these 4 different designs and I'll put hidden pictures in them. And then the kids can like look for them and it can be interactive. Like that's really what it is I want people to interact and like get pulled into the work more. And one of the projects I'm doing right now is at this place called Robinia Courtyard, where I also did another mural over the summer outside. And it's a really cool venue. It has a cafe, a restaurant, and then a plant-based restaurant, and this beautiful outdoor space.
Is this the Ravinia down by Chicago?
No, it's Robinia.
Or is this Oh,
Yeah, it's
Rovinia.
in
Okay, sorry. I thought you
Madison.
said
It's
Ravinia.
okay.
Okay. Sweet.
And their outdoor wall, one of the owners got married there this summer, and so I used his wedding invitation to choose like the color palette, and then I found out where he and his now wife had traveled to. So the hidden pictures are all birds. They're either like the national bird or like the state bird of where he and his wife traveled to. And so
That is so
it's
sweet.
fun, and it's like, yeah, I can appreciate this massive, like, I don't know how long that wall is. It's got to be more, maybe like 80 feet, something like that, because it was hard to get it in like a picture, right? But then I'm doing everything with a brush, and like I'm obsessed with details, like deeply. It might be problematic, but I enjoy it too much for it to be problematic, right? So it's like
Yeah.
I want people to come in and like look at this little thing. Like this is really beautiful, and I put this here for you. So like come look at this, right? And it's fun that
Yeah.
way. Um,
So how long does something like that take
so
you?
that's like that's one of my current struggles. My relationship with time is very disjointed. Um, I
Hmm.
never hardly ever know what day it is. Things like I've tried using time blocking recently to have a better understanding of time because 5 minutes to me what feels like 5 minutes to me is like 3 hours when I'm painting. So that, I don't know, like a
Wow.
couple months, I think, you
Yeah.
know? There are some things that I can do really quickly, and then some things that like seem really simple, but if I'm looking at it and I'm like, this doesn't look right, it might just take me time to understand like what doesn't look right and like how to adjust it. But the thing that I can guarantee is that when I tell you it's finished, it's going to be to my standards, right? Like I have to rest at night.
Yeah.
So I'm going to deliver like absolute quality, you know?
Yep.
But sometimes I'm not going to be consistent with time. It just, it's, and there are, unforeseen factors and variables, and I'm learning consistently, and I feel like I am good at communicating, and like I'll be open about things. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it can go really fast.
It
Sometimes it
just
takes
it
longer.
varies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned in terms of running your own business since going full time?
The one thing, especially for other creatives, especially when you are just starting out, I learned the importance and the value of getting half upfront, non-refundable. Like, no matter what
Boom.
happens,
Yep.
I'm not gonna come out negative. I'm not gonna be mad at you because, like, I'm at least paid for, right? Like, you have to look out for yourself, and that's not selfish and it's not shameful, and you don't have to hide it, right? It's actually like, if you're
Amen.
doing that, that is, you're commanding respect, you're being professional, you're communicating clearly, like, make people show the fuck up for you. I had someone in my hometown that it was like right after COVID. I went back, I painted my first mural there in the back. Then I painted this whole big mural in the front of her store, like spanning the whole back part of the counter. I came back after COVID. She's like, well, it's been a really long time. And that was her answer for paying me. I just recently got paid like from her like a month ago because I shared that experience and was like trying to tell people like this is why I asked for half up front. And this is someone that I was like, "Oh, you're my friend. We're from the same place. Like, you know my mom, right?" Like, yeah,
It's been a long time. It's like, yeah, no shit. Nobody's been outside in
yeah,
2
and
years.
also, would you accept that in your business? No. A lot of people treat creatives in ways that are fucking wild. I'm sorry. I have a very colorful vocabulary. I hope that's acceptable.
I do
Okay.
too.
I hope
It's
that's
great.
acceptable. But yeah, that is definitely that's something that I always talk to creatives about is
Yeah.
it's simple. Half up front, non-refundable.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's something I'm passionate about too, with talking to other creatives starting businesses, and honestly, people who work in quote unquote non-creative jobs or like normal
Right.
people jobs is not undervaluing yourself.
Yeah.
Like put in the little extra work that it takes to research like what the competitive salaries
Right.
are and the hourly rates are, and come in armed with
Information.
facts.
Yeah.
Like what have you succeeded with? What are your strengths? What are you working on now? Like where do you think that you lag based off of like what your job requirements are? All of it.
Yes.
And especially artists, like there's no reason to be a starving artist
No,
anymore.
I'm
And
trying
this
to
is
live
something
the
that I've talked about in here, and it's like, yeah, like let's fucking thrive and be bougie
all
and
day.
create and like,
Luxury.
yes. And so it's
Yeah, I like
when
luxury.
when is your birthday?
September
When is your
15th,
birthday?
1988. I'm a Virgo
Okay, I was
dragon.
okay. Okay, I thought you were. I was like, okay, you sound like a Taurus. I'm a Taurus too, so I'm like, give me all the good food, give me all the good clothes, and all that stuff. And
I'm
as much as I still am like a very simple, easy person, I'm like, ooh, I kind of like being a little bougie.
Hell yeah. I'm like this all this starving artist shit is dead. Like that was trendy when Van Gogh was around. He cut his ear off. There wasn't mental health assistance back then. Where that's dead. That is absolutely dead. Life
Yeah.
of luxury, demand your worth, live how you want to live day to day. Like, and part of it is, do you know what you want? Like the first time that I actually asked
Mm-hmm.
myself, what do you want? I didn't know. I was ashamed.
Somebody asked me that when we moved to Austin. There was a producer that was down here who, like, I had randomly met on one of the last days that we lived in New York City. I was working at Lululemon in Soho, and shout out to that team, fucking awesome people company store. this guy comes in, we start shooting the shit. I'm like, yeah, I moved now to Austin. I'm a voice actor, pretty much full time. And this is just kind of like a fun job for me. And he's like, oh my gosh, that's great. So we talked over Zoom when we moved down, and he's like, so Tim, like, what do you want to do? And I was like, voice act, make a lot of money, I guess. And that really shook me. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And while we're saying, at least I'll speak for myself, when I'm saying like being a starving artist and is overrated, or it's outdated, sorry, not overrated, it's outdated and complete bullshit, I don't mean that struggling to figure out what you want to do is outdated or anything like that. It's, you got to go try a lot of stiff stuff. Some people have to throw a bunch of pasta at the wall before anything sticks, and that's okay.
It's part of it. It's like, I would encourage,
but it's all part of refining.
Yes, that's the key word. It is refining. I feel like I'm constantly refining myself. And I actually talked to a girl that's a photographer the other day. I was painting one of the murals I'm working on, and she's like, do you mind if I ask you like how much you're getting for this? Like, how do you navigate that? And my main variable when I'm getting approached with these projects is, do I feel excited to do this? Like, am I motivated by this concept? Because then I'm going to enjoy doing the work, and I'll actually like the work, right? If I'm not motivated, I don't want to do it. Like, and it will show in my work, and then I will want to kill people. I won't.
And it's I get that gross feeling of like, oh God, what have I done? And then it's like, okay, I've signed up for too much, and now I'm going to let this person down, and that makes me want to throw up. And then, okay, I'm just going to get it done.
Complete unrest.
And it's, complete unrest.
It's trash.
Complete unrest. A memoir.
Yeah, exactly. And so I told her, I was like, so when I'm approaching these projects, I decide in the beginning, like, do I want to work with these people? Do I like and am motivated for this project? I have an understanding of like my basic needs, like what are my expenses per month, right? Like, what do I need to live? And then I will open negotiation with them. And if they don't, like in this case, they didn't really know where to negotiate. They were like, we don't have a huge budget. We don't want to insult you. And I was like, okay, well, for example, when I worked with UW Hospital, I will do $35 a square foot. That's not in a lot of people's budgets, right? Like, it's not. I mean, it is. There are a lot of people in the world that can afford that, right? But if you're talking about community level work and you're wanting to work with people and like get to know people in your community, that might not be the price that you always get, So if this is an opportunity and I have the space and time for it and I'm excited about it, and like this is, really cool, I will use that as a negotiating point and find I still feel really, really good about how much I'm getting paid for everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing much better financially than I've ever done in my life. And this is the beginning.
That's something that I talk about with folks too, is like people will say, or new clients will say, hey, I saw a post you did and we'd love to have you voice this project. Like, can you send us a rate card? I'm like, that's really, God, I wish it was that easy. Right?
And no.
Just like, yes, this and done. But it's not that easy, because at the end of the day, like, you have to be excited about it. And for me, it's like, to a certain degree, yes. But also, like, the things that I am more excited for, if they have a lower budget and I know the people, then I might do a project here and there for free. Or I might, but it's not a large scale project. Right. It's like I'm helping somebody to get something started or to get something funded. And you can negotiate those prices, and there's no shame in that.
Not at all.
And anybody who's giving you shit about that is
they're not
like
the people you want to work with.
Andrew Tate.
Oh my God. I feel like that man wears like 2 sizes too small whitey tighties. Like, he's always just like I don't like, it makes me tired, right? Like, I'm just like, it's cool, bro. Like, man, that's a sorry.
Yeah, we won't give him any more airtime. Well, Kat, 45 minutes is fucking flown.
I'm sorry.
I have no apology accepted at all.
Okay.
It's been a true pleasure to get to meet you. I know this will not be our last conversation, especially with all of the fire and flames that we have that burn for our connections and our creativity. Yes. That'll be the accountability group that we form for artists. Called it'll be called LOL, Life of
Yes, I'm
Luxury.
here for it.
Before I cut you loose, I have 4 quick fire questions for you. Just real quick, top of mind, like just couple word answers, okay? First question is, who inspires you?
Recently, Donald Glover.
Love that. What is a nickname that you had as a kid?
Katie Coob.
Katie Coob. That's honestly has become my favorite question to ask, and I've gotten some wild answers. Third question is, what's a piece of content that you can't stop consuming, whether that's a podcast, album, TV show, book?
I would have to say podcast recently. I've been listening to a lot of Drink Champs. I've been listening to
What's
Drink
that?
Champs. You don't know what Drink Champs is?
Yeah.
So that's Noriega, and they're interviewing a lot of like rappers and different people. Not just rappers at all. Like Patti LaBelle was on there. All different types of people, and I really love listening to creative people speak, and I listen to music constantly, so I really like the experience of listening to them. So like not only just hearing their voice when it's different from rapping, but like just hearing their background. So yeah, Drink Champs.
Okay. Done. I'm adding it to my queue. I literally only listen to podcasts until Jess, my wife, is like, you have to listen to like something that is current and cultural. I'm like, podcasts are current and cultural.
Look at you being bougie. LOL.
LOL. All right, last question. You can only have pizza one last time. What's on it and where's it from? This also has the caveat of there are 0 dietary consequences if you're gluten, dairy intolerant. So it is just like pure bliss. Enjoying
Well,
the
I
pizza.
am vegan, and I killed cheese super hard by like the whole like when your parents find your kids smoking cigarettes and make them smoke a carton. Like I did that to myself with cheese. So the vegan penne pasta with spinach pizza from Ian's Pizza in Madison. It's called like the vegan spinach and penne.
Pasta on the
Yes,
pizza.
and I never feel bad about it. Sometimes I ask for more. It is
As you
so
should.
fire.
Okay, next time I'm in Madison, we'll have to go. I'm gonna have to check that out.
And
Ian's
we'll get the
Pizza.
larger
Done.
size. It's like,
Perfect.
yes, absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
Yes.
Well, Kat, thank you again so much. This has been a true treat. I'm so glad that we got connected through Tanja and that you reached out to do this and that we're able to make it work. This is it's been awesome, and I can't wait to talk to you again
Cheers
soon.
to Tanja. Thank you, Tanja. Thank you, Tim, for everything. This is awesome.
Oh, geez. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Second Cup with my friend Kat Karmalover Culbertson. If you'd like to keep up with what Kat has going on and all of her beautiful projects that she's working on, you can follow her on Instagram at Karmalover. That's Karmalover, linked below in the episode description. A massive thank you to my producer, Julia Shepard-Morgan, and our editing and video team, Arai Productions, featuring Alberth Percy and Sarang Sharma. Heads up to all the listeners out there, we have some really exciting announcements coming up as we head into the second season of Second Cup in just a couple of days/weeks. So please stay tuned. You won't want to miss out on what we've got coming for all of you. Tune in next time for another incredible conversation with a really neat person. Goodbye now.